guys, New Year's resolutions. Let's talk about the difference between New Year's resolutions and passing over. As we talk about these things, we're going to cover the difference between manifestation and prayer. And there is a difference. Manifestation is you trying to do things on your own strength and using the strength of demonic principalities if you really get nasty into it, okay? Prayer is relying on the strength of Yehovah and the identity that he has given to you, that you are made in the image of the Most High God, okay? So this is Jim, and Jim wants to lose some weight. He wants to get in shape. He wants to get buff, okay? He's going to the gym. He's trying to get buff. He's made a New Year's resolution, and he's on his own strength has decided that he's going to really do it this year. This year is the year that Jimmy is going to be buff. He's going to be one buff dude, okay? The problem is deep down in Jimmy's heart, Jimmy really doesn't believe he's truly a buff dude. He believes that he's weak. Even though he's putting on that smile and he's got that killer headband, he believes that he's not actually the buff dude that he desires and aspires to be. So what Jimmy's doing is he's going about it on his own strength. He's trying and he's working out and he's trying to be that buff dude, and he's just not getting anywhere because at the end of the day, he truly believes deep down in his heart, somewhere in his heart, he believes that he's not a buff dude. And until he has enough information presented to him to believe that he is a buff dude deep down in his heart, he will not change into a buff dude. So he's got to persevere, push, and persevere until he has all of this evidence that he is a buff dude, and then he will start to believe he's a buff dude. This is why people make resolutions and they go about it for a couple weeks, and usually around this time, the time that I'm posting this video, mid-January, they tend to flake out. Because deep in their heart, they have these ingrained habits, they have these ingrained beliefs that they have not dealt with, and so they revert back to their old ways, and they go back to their old habits, and nothing ever changes. And then next year, once again, they're here making resolutions again. Jimmy has likely believed these things his whole life. He's a slave to these beliefs that have been ingrained in him from society, from his habits, from his parents. Whatever ingrained these beliefs that he's not a buff dude, the dude that he really wants to be, that is ingrained deep within his psyche. And so it's very difficult, unless he's aware of these things, to overcome those beliefs and start to build new beliefs that he is a buff dude, and he can do what he needs to do to be the man that he has been called to be. These here are slaves in Egypt. So what happened is they got enslaved over time in Egypt, and it was like a slow boil. You know how you put the frog in the pot? Have you heard that story? The thing, you put the frog in the pot and then you turn up the temperature slow. Well, these guys were in Egypt, the Israelites, and they were in Egypt, and what happened was everything was fine at first, but then over time, the different pharaohs slowly started to boil them and enslave them more and more with different mental ideas, with different understandings, with the culture, and then eventually, these guys are working for free for the pharaoh, okay? They're enslaved. They have leeks and they have a few yummy things to eat, but they're basically slaves for Pharaoh. They're pounding bricks every day. You know what I'm saying? So eventually Yehovah hears their cry. They're crying out because of their slavery, and he hears them and he remembers them. And what happens is he anoints Moses. And Moses tells them, well, first of all, there's the plagues, but then Moses tells them, you got to mark your doors. You got to mark your doors with the blood of the Lamb. Okay, now eventually this will be a prophecy that leads to Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, who is our Passover lamb, who died for us, to break us from the yokes of bondage, right? Remember when Yeshua goes into the temple and he stands up and he reads from Isaiah and he says, I've come to set the captives free? He wants to set the captives free. He wants to set you free from not only physical slavery, but your slavery mindset. You have a mindset of slavery. See, you're practicing the New Year's on the Gregorian calendar, and you're telling yourself you've got to push through, and you've got to reach these goals by your own strength. But Yeshua wants to intervene with you and work with you and change your identity, have you born again. And in that change of identity, you start to realize that you are in the image of Yah, the Most High God. And by being in the image of the Most High God, that changes your identity, and that will change your belief, and that will change the outcome that you are walking out every single day. Even after the people had left Egypt, they spent a ton of time wandering in the wilderness because of their unbelief. They didn't understand that they were in covenant and they were walking with the Most High God, that He was going ahead of them and warring with them. And all they had to do was stay in agreement with Him and the giants would fall. But they were not able to do that because they had constant unbelief. They kept wanting to go back to their slavery. They kept wanting to do things their own way, doing things on their own strength, instead of letting God do things for them. If you're finding yourself on a particular issue or a particular habit, constantly walking around in the wilderness and never getting into that good land, could it be a financial issue? Could it be a health issue? Whatever it is, I want you to ask yourself, where are you not giving up control? Where are you trying to do things on your own strength instead of fully handing it over to Him? Instead of making New Year's resolutions this year, think about what you want to pass over. What do you want to move past in your life? How do you want to see things differently? Is it an identity issue? You have to ask yourself, am I stuck in this pattern because I have a belief that's incorrect? And you need to affix your beliefs to the scriptures. So you want to go through the scriptures and find a new belief, a new pattern that you can take into your identity. When you're born again, you become a child of God. So the promises of God and the things of God are for you. So you want to find those promises and hold onto them tightly. You also want to change your identity. Let's go through a simple example. So if you're trying to eat healthier or be healthier, instead of looking at it like you've got to force yourself because you're still an unhealthy person, you're still just like Jim and you don't actually believe that you're a buff bro, you want to start thinking that you are a child of God and your body's a temple. And you want to care perfectly for the temple of the Holy Spirit. And you want to start changing how you see yourself in that way. A great thing to do is to post scriptures to remind you of the different promises in the area that you're working on around your house. As we head towards the Passover, the time of year where we remember our covenant with Yeshua, think about the ways that you need to be renewed and born again. Write an inventory. Start to remove the old leaven from your life, the old beliefs, the old habits, the old things that are no longer supposed to be part of your walk, and start to focus on how He sets us free, how He frees us from every bondage, and by His stripes we are healed. If you want help to learn about the spring feasts and how you can find Yeshua in all these holy days, I wrote an entire study guide. It's 77 pages long, and it is by donation. If you can't afford to leave anything, don't leave anything. If you can, I appreciate your support. Love you guys. Have a blessed Passover season.